Welcome, seekers of the truth, to the Magical Services channel. So this is going to be a most supreme love horoscope for the general collective for this day of June 8th, 2026. With that said, collective, let's get into your horoscope. So across this relational field, emotional perception begins in a heightened state of sensitivity where affective signals are processed before conscious interpretation can stabilize them. The moon establishes a reactive emotional substrate that prioritizes resonance over analysis, causing immediate absorption of relational atmosphere. Emotional boundaries are fluid at the start of the cycle, producing strong tendencies toward empathetic merging in early connection dynamics. This creates intimacy potential through immediacy of feeling rather than structured compatibility. The sun introduces a dual channel awareness pattern that splits relational cognition into parallel interpretive streams. One stream processes direct emotional experience, while the other constructs narrative meaning around that experience. This produces internal multiplicity in relationship perception, where a single interaction can generate several simultaneous emotional interpretations. The result is richness of perception, but also instability if synthesis does not occur. Mercury introduces a high resolution communication layer that continuously translates emotional states into language. This increases awareness of relational nuance, but also introduces overprocessing risk. Feelings are not simply experienced, they are constantly reinterpreted through internal dialogue. This creates recursive loops where meaning is generated faster than emotional resolution can stabilize. Venus intensifies attachment formation through memory-based emotional encoding. Attraction is reinforced through familiarity signals, producing strong bonding patterns based on continuity rather than novelty. Emotional security becomes a primary driver of relational investment, and deviations from expected emotional consistency are registered with heightened sensitivity. This strengthens loyalty once attachment is established, but can also prolong unresolved relational tension. Mars introduces grounded desire dynamics that operate through accumulation rather than impulse. Attraction builds through repetition, proximity, and sustained presence. This produces endurance in relational desire, but also resistance to abrupt shifts in emotional direction. Once a relational trajectory is established, it tends to persist unless structural disruption occurs. Jupiter expands emotional interpretation into meaning seeking frameworks. Relationships are evaluated not only for their immediate emotional impact, but also for their perceived directionality and symbolic significance. This introduces optimism into relational perception, but can also inflate expectations beyond present conditions. Saturn introduces structural pressure into emotional systems, enforcing boundaries around what is sustainable in connection. Emotional dynamics are tested against long-term viability, and inconsistencies become more visible under this influence. This produces a filtering effect that removes unstable relational patterns while reinforcing durable ones. Uranus introduces unpredictability into communication and emotional exchange. Sudden shifts in perception, unexpected emotional disclosures, and rapid reinterpretations of relational meanings become more frequent. This disrupts emotional stagnation and forces adaptation, but can also destabilize continuity if not integrated. Neptune amplifies emotional idealization and dissolves rigid perception boundaries. This increases intuitive bonding and emotional imagination within relationships, but also creates potential for projection where internal desires are mistaken for external reliability. Pluto introduces deep structural transformation within relational identity. Emotional attachments are not merely adjusted but fundamentally reorganized. Power dynamics within relationships shift subtly over time, often without immediate recognition, creating long-term transformation of attachment architecture. As these forces interact, the relational field becomes a layered system of emotional immediacy, cognitive interpretation, communicative recursion, and structural evaluation. Emotional experience is continuously rewritten as it moves through these layers, producing a dynamic rather than static relational identity. The resulting field is not stable in a conventional sense. It is adaptive, continuously recalibrating based on internal feedback loops between feeling, interpretation, and structural viability. Attachment is therefore not a fixed state, but an evolving process shaped by competing pressures of intimacy, autonomy, stability, and meaning. The emotional system continues to evolve as the relational field enters deeper layers of integration, where earlier signals are no longer processed in isolation but in combined interaction. Emotional memory begins to merge with present perception, creating continuity effects that cause past relational impressions to influence current interpretation, even when no direct causal link is present. This produces a temporal blending of emotional experience where past, present, and anticipated relational states are processed simultaneously. Within this expanded field, emotional coherence becomes a central stabilizing force. This system naturally seeks alignment between what is felt, what is expressed, and what is sustained over time. When these layers diverge, tensions emerge, or I should say, tension emerges not as conflict but as informational mismatch requiring recalibration. The relational mind attempts to resolve these mismatches by adjusting interpretation rather than suppressing feeling, leading to iterative refinement of emotional understanding. Communication patterns deepen into a more adaptive structure where meaning is continuously negotiated rather than fixed. Each interaction becomes a revision point in the relational narrative, updating internal models of the connection. This creates a living system of understanding that is always in motion, never fully finalized. Emotional clarity is therefore not a static achievement, but a repeated process of alignment between evolving internal states. Desire within this field becomes increasingly multidimensional, no longer confined to immediate attraction or physical proximity. It expands into psychological resonance, shared directionality, and the perception of mutual growth potential. Attraction is sustained not only by presence but by perceived trajectory, creating a forward oriented emotional pull that influences attachment strength over time. At the same time, emotional boundaries become more defined through repeated exposure to relational variability. The system learns to differentiate between transient emotional fluctuations and stable attachment signals. This differentiation process increases emotional precision, allowing for more selective investment in relational dynamics that demonstrate consistency across time. As the relational field stabilizes further, internal emotional regulation strengthens. Reactive intensity decreases while interpretive depth increases, allowing for more deliberate engagement with relational stimuli. Emotional responses become less immediate and more processed, creating space for reflection before attachment decisions are reinforced. The overall system moves toward a state of integrated emotional awareness where perception, interpretation, and response operate in closer alignment. This does not eliminate complexity, but organizes it in a more coherent structure, into a more coherent structure. The result is a relational field that is highly sensitive yet increasingly disciplined in how it forms and sustains emotional bonds. This ongoing calibration ensures that emotional intelligence within relationships becomes progressively more refined, allowing each interaction to contribute incrementally to a more coherent and sustainable relational architecture over time. Overall, yeah, over time in an overall kind of way. So that's what I had for you today, collective. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video, comment this video, or share this video, or subscribe to our channel so you get first dibs on future uploads. And of course, that would help me grow the Supreme channel of ours very much. And also make sure to check out the offer in the description box. It is pretty awesome. And also, I thank you very much for being here and for your time and for supporting our channel. Until the next time, blessings.